Good morning, everyone. I think last week or last month, my apologies, we kind of skipped the introduction section. And I think particularly for our speakers, it's nice for them to know who their audience is. And I do see some new faces. So let's just quickly go around. I may wait for the elected officials because you will be speaking later to do yours. So I'll just call your name and just go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what organization you're with. So good morning, Paul.
Paul Green, Azure Green Consultants.
Excellent. Good morning, Sean.
Sean Bunny, Creative Local Strategies.
Great. And we've got Lori Waltier from the Chamber. And Chris, we will get to you shortly with the U.S. Chamber. Dan
McReynolds, Parametrics Engineering.
Perfect. Oh, Councilman Johnson, nice to see you.
Hi, good to see you. Thank you.
And also let us know what other organization you're with.
Oh, with the Puyallup Food Bank now, so that's a great combo there. Everything's all Puyallup, so I live in Puyallup, serve in Puyallup, elected official, and then work in Puyallup, so all about
Awesome.
Puyallup right now. Yeah,
you're getting them from all fronts. I love it. Awesome.
Right.
Good morning, Luke.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And a quick announcement with Luke. He has just joined our board of directors here in January. Is his first. So we're really happy to have him on our board. And we are going to roll him right back into the board chair of the GAC going forward. So he'll help me facilitate in the future. Yeah, welcome. Sarah, good morning. Thanks for joining our legislative committee too. That was very helpful, the bills that you researched.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And I'm Sarah Joy with Chicago Title.
Excellent. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning. I'm Ryan Windish, Community Development Director, City of Sumner.
Excellent. Mayor Pugh. Oh, I was going to wait, but yes, Mayor Pugh, good morning.
Yeah, I was supposed to be later on there. Anyway, Bill Pugh, Sumner.
Perfect. Sorry about that. And then, yep, we'll get to Hans as well. Good morning, Kurt.
Good morning, Kurt Jimistad with Absher Construction and on the Sumner Chamber Board.
Perfect. And good morning, Sam. Nice to see you.
Hey, good morning, Tara. Great to see you.
Let us know what company you're with.
I'm with Keller Williams Commercial.
Perfect. You've got some good projects going on in downtown Puyallup, some good pieces of property for sale.
You know, we do. Thank you for bringing that up. We just listed the old DSHS building, 27,000 square foot, that comes with a 3-story, 160 car parking garage right next to the Sounder train station.
Yeah, let's land someone good there.
There you go.
I see that Sheila from our office is also on the line. And then good morning, Brooke.
Good morning. This is Brooke Stegmeyer from New Canvas Advising.
Perfect. Welcome. We have, Mike Lehman. So nice to see that you're joining us this morning.
Hi, good morning. Mike Lehman from Chick-fil-A up in Puyallup.
Perfect. I see a JAH.
It's John Hall with Quorum Ford, Lincoln, and Hyundai.
Oh, thank you for joining us, John. Appreciate it. And we have Steve Dornbush. Hi, Steve. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there I go. Yeah, Steve Dornbush, Keller Williams Commercial.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. And I see we have Joe from Washington State Hospitality.
Good morning. Joe Bushnell, Washington Hospitality Association, Local Government Affairs.
Excellent. We may have you chime in a little later. You always have great updates as well. And Miss Renee McLean, our current board chair. Good morning.
Oh, Renee McLean with the Washington State Fair.
Excellent. Christy, good morning. Oh, she has no mic today. Good morning, Christy. Thanks for joining us. Rachel, Joe, Elliott, good morning.
Hi, I'm RJ. I'm the assistant to Senator Chris Gildon. I'm just taking notes for him. He's stuck in committee right now.
Oh yeah, shocking. Thank you, appreciate it. Great, I see a Scott Armstrong. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott Armstrong, Sharp Business Systems.
Perfect. Lana, nice to join us. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. City of Sumner. And then a couple of phone callers. If you want to log in real quick and identify yourself, then we'll get started with our lobbyist.
This is Dave Morrell, Pierce County Council.
Yes, it is. Good morning. And who else?
Good morning.
Good morning. We'll look forward to hearing an update from you shortly. And who else do we have on the phone? Okay, I am not 100% sure, but good morning, everyone. Happy February. We've had a lot of activity going on in the chamber regarding advocacy. I'm excited to have Carolyn Logue here again. She's very busy, is with our South Sound Chamber of Commerce Legislative Coalition. So Carolyn, I'll let you go ahead and take the floor and provide some updates on our legislative priorities.
Thanks, Tara. And I'll be really brief today. I'm actually on 3 screens. So you've got me on my iPad. I have my husband's laptop going with one thing, and I'm waiting to testify on my own laptop. So it's been kind of fascinating. I haven't turned on my TV yet, but this seems to be how this session is going, multiple screens, and it's been kind of, it's been really, really interesting. I'm not getting any steps on my Fitbit this year, which is frustrating. So I just want to kind of give a quick update. We're in week 4, I believe, of this wonderful legislative session. We're starting to see some things happen. We're starting to see some things gel. You know, at the beginning, the first couple of weeks were just sort of a flurry of bills, lots of labor bills that were concerning. Many of those are still kind of in committee or they're getting amended significantly. But I'm just going to highlight a few. First of all, we know that in the first week they heard 5114, and that was the bill that would move the entire state to phase 2. You know, over, I think it was like 1,600 people testifying or wanting to testify or signing in, just a huge support for it. Bill hasn't moved. We don't know that it's going to move. And I know, Tara, you testified on that one. But you did see that the governor is starting to look at the reopening metrics again and moving things in a different direction. So hopefully that pressure is still on there to try and get things going. And hopefully that pressure is happening as we're also working and hopefully seeing more vaccine come out. We're also, just kind of on a good positive note, the Senate and House have both passed 5061. That is the unemployment insurance relief bill. It will it'll reduce the amount of the UI tax rates that employers just got hit with. So it has to pass early. And so it's gone its way to the governor's desk. He's expected to sign it so that ESD can reissue those tax rate notices. It won't eliminate it completely, but it will reduce it significantly, and it'll vary by industry and business and where you sit with the social taxes, the social tax. But it's a good step in the right direction. There is a lot of work to be done. A couple controversial pieces of that bill. One, to smooth out that tax, it's pushed the increases because eventually taxes have to rebuild the fund. So there's some work still need to be done in that arena going forward. They also increased the minimum weekly benefit amount and increased and allowed some voluntary quits for certain workers who have to quit their job because of COVID reasons, which will put more pressure on the fund and unemployment insurance costs, which will then have to be paid back. So there's a lot of controversy involved. So it sort of passed quickly to get to that immediate need to reduce that tax increase. But there's going to be more. This isn't going to be the end. This is going to be something that continues. The other good thing that's moving is House Bill 1095. And this is a bill that would, all the PPP and PUA and grants and things like that, that small businesses have received in money for the COVID relief. This bill would exempt it from any state taxation. And this is Representative Amy Wellen's bill. It passed the House. It has a hearing in the Senate this afternoon. It is expected to also pass very quickly. Department of Revenue actually requested it. So that is a good thing too. And that'll make sure that you don't see tax increases because of money you receive to keep your business going. We also, last night, the House passed House Bill 1368, and this is a funding mechanism. It's one of first of a few bills to look at how to spend federal dollars coming in to try and help with COVID relief efforts. Money going to school districts, money going to public health, a lot of those different entities. There were some attempts to amend an additional, some additional monies for the unemployment insurance relief, specifically to try and help with next year's experience rate increases. That did not pass. We've been receiving assurances there. Those kinds of discussions will pass in later bills. But that bill did pass the House and is going to the Senate now. Also this week, just real quickly, or the last couple of weeks, we've seen transportation packages. We had some concerns at the South Sound Chamber because, of course, the governor initially paused parts of the Gateway project, which of course is a priority for our chamber coalition. Lots of letters, a couple panels of great testimony, including your own chamber exec. And the governor has opted not to pause the Gateway project, any pieces of it. So it's still on track. So that was a huge win. And we're looking at now the new transportation proposals that are popping out. Representative Fye over in the House has put out his proposal. It is a 18-cent gas tax increase indexed over, I believe, about 16 years. It's a $15 per ton on the carbon tax for emissions in the transportation sector, moving up to $20 in 23, 25, and $25 per ton in 25, 27. They've got some funding for for culverts, a lot of different things. And then Senator Hobbs released his. His is a 6-cent gas tax increase right away, $20 per ton of carbon emission tax on the transportation sector. And he also then puts an alternative out there. So there's some choosing of a cap and invest structure. So there's a lot of work. I think Representative Saldana or Senator Saldana also has a plan, and we're expecting the Senate Republicans to put a transportation plan out. So I think you're going to see a lot of these big transportation package discussions going on. I don't know if any of them will pass this year. You'll have a transportation budget, but I don't know if there's going to be the bandwidth to be able to do a giant package this year. But I think what we're seeing now with this, with some of the cap and invest, Senate Bill 5126 that's going through the Senate Environment Committee, with House Bill 1084, which is a building decarbonization plan, which is going in the House Environment Committee, you're starting to see sort of this lay of the land for more aggressive climate change types of proposals. Like I said, I don't know if they've got the ability this year with the remote sessions and how complicated these things are to do this year. And as you know, if you're a builder, you're now just dealing with the new energy codes, which are, I think, causing a little havoc and confusion. But I think that we're seeing kind of a setup for a real aggressive discussion next year, some real climate change discussions. So that's what I have right now. On the labor front, other than unemployment insurance, we are seeing some things with expansion of paid family leave moving that are concerning to businesses. There's a key TAM bill out there that is where it basically would give standing to more individuals to take action against employers for wage violations. We are also seeing a bill that would allow an employee to file wage liens against their employer that are having hearings, but we don't know what's going to happen in the end. I know there's a lot of, I think most business testimony starts with, why are you doing this to us now? K-12, I think we're going to see some more funds. They're going to have to deal with school bus transportation situation and funding. They have to deal with what do they do about how to, once they get these kids back into school, some of the remedial needs that might be there. So there's going to be a lot of discussion about that as in the budget discussions going forward. Any questions? Any bills you want to hear about?
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, please take advantage of her before she's going to scoot out of here on us.
Carolyn, I was going to ask, how does a $20 carbon tax show up out of my wallet?
Well, and I should have brought up 1091, which is the low carbon fuel standard. So the way that a metric ton emission tax would work, and even the cap and invest, where they buy allowances to be able to do the emissions and that type of thing, and the low carbon fuel standard, it shows up in what the price of fuel is and what that does to the price of fuel. I think the biggest concern with things like this is if you're talking about a carbon emission tax and you don't have a significant change in your fuel structure and how fuel is what the emission levels are, combined with having the cars and the vehicles out there that can run these new fuels that have lower carbon emissions, it could hurt somebody significantly. I think the freight industry is really concerned because of the amount of fuel they use, plus the need for changing out those trucks is, if you have freight, you know that changing out a truck or a piece of ag machinery, that's not a $20,000 change. That's a $100,000 to $200,000 change out. So I think that's, but you don't see it directly. So it gets really kind of hard. You see it in what happens overall in the cost of fuel.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
It's going to be a whirlwind, I think, with very little actually happening in the end. Is what I think. think, and a lot of big talk.
Well, thanks for making yourself available and cutting it
All
down
right.
for us the way you do. We really appreciate it.
Okay, and if anyone has anything, just, Tara, send me an email and I'll see if I can find the answer.
All right.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. All right. So off to the federal level with Chris Eyler. We've got a change in administration and curious to hear what types of things the U.S. Chamber is going to be working with him on.
Thanks, Tara. I will keep this relatively short. Since my update back in December, Democrats did win both of the runoff elections in Georgia. You all know that. So they control the House, Senate, and now the White House. But as I mentioned back in December, the margins in both the House and Senate are razor thin. So that is going to temper their ability to do anything too extreme on, to either end of the spectrum. That is a good thing. First of all, it means that they will continue to prioritize the pandemic, which is something we want to see. We can't get our economy back to where it needs to be until people are vaccinated. And so the U.S. Chamber wants to make sure Congress's first priority is the pandemic. It also means that it's more likely that they're going to focus on a lot of the issues that we've been clamoring for, transportation infrastructure, immigration, because those issues are going to require members from both sides of the aisle to get passed. With respect to the pandemic, President Biden did roll out his American Rescue Plan. This is that $1.9 trillion framework. The U.S. Chamber did applaud the basics of this framework. As I said, we want to make sure Congress and the federal government is prioritizing the pandemic, specifically providing resources for vaccination, testing, and getting more aid into state and local governments. A group of 10 Republicans have countered with a much smaller proposal, a $618 billion proposal that would include lower payments to direct payments to individuals, smaller extended unemployment benefits, and just a general reduction in what President Biden has proposed. The administration wants to do this with Republican votes if they can. However, as President Biden has said repeatedly, he would rather do too much than too little. And so the real question right now is, are they going to try and hammer out an agreement with Republicans in order to get bipartisan support and get the 60 votes necessary to overcome a filibuster in the Senate? Or will they use a procedural tool known as budget reconciliation, which only requires a simple majority in the Senate? The thing to keep in mind about budget reconciliation, though, it's a budgetary tool. And so doing a lot of policy changes are nearly impossible using budget reconciliation. Everything in the budget reconciliation bill needs to be related to the budget. Either it needs to increase revenue, reduce the deficit, or directly impact spending. So doing things that we would like to see, such as adding liability protections for businesses, would be impossible. And doing some of the things that President Biden has proposed, like increasing the minimum wage, would be almost impossible with a budget reconciliation bill. Now, it's not totally impossible. Democrats in the Senate could overrule the chair and do away with what's known as the Byrd rule, and they could move forward with a lot of these things, but that's highly unlikely because that would effectively end the filibuster for at least several bills each year that you could just put on budget reconciliation. But I'm not going to get into that because it's too technical. But really the question right now in DC is, are the Democrats going to try and get bipartisan support for a broader package, or will they use budget reconciliation to move something through on a purely partisan vote? We have sent a letter to Capitol Hill today urging them to try and do something bipartisan with bipartisan support, largely because it will enable them to do a more thorough job and address some of these other things, such as liability protections for businesses. Beyond the pandemic, and as I said, we continue to stress to Congress and the administration that the pandemic needs to be the top priority. We also want to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So we are moving forward and urging Congress to commit to a transportation and infrastructure package by the 4th of July. This is our Build by the 4th of July transportation initiative. We are urging a comprehensive package that, not just the traditional, what you think of when you think of infrastructure, roads, bridges, seaports, airports, and whatnot, but also broadband, and also to take steps to responsibly address concerns about climate change. Beyond that, the administration has spent a lot of its first few weeks in office issuing new executive orders. The executive orders, for the most part, are simply rolling back executive orders issued by the Trump administration. The chamber has applauded a number of these, including the executive order requiring masks on all federal property, lifting the Muslim ban, rejoining the World Health Organization, rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. Our feeling there is we need to be at the table. We can't be on the outside for those discussions. And we have been we have looked very favorably on a lot of the steps that the administration has taken with respect to immigration and their desire to prioritize finally doing something comprehensive on immigration reform. We have, however, raised objections to their executive order stopping construction on the Keystone XL pipeline. I know that's not a very big issue here in Washington State, but the pipeline is practically built, and it is one of the most studied energy projects in the history of energy projects, and we don't see any reason why it shouldn't be completed. Likewise, we have raised objections to the administration's halt of any future oil and gas development on federal lands. And then lastly, I just want to bring this up because there will increasingly be a lot more discussion about minimum wage, increasing the federal minimum wage. This is an issue that the chamber has generally said should be left to the states because the impact of a minimum wage varies from region to region. The impact of a minimum wage, a $15 minimum wage in Seattle in Western Washington is a lot different than it is in, say, rural Idaho. So as I said, we have generally encouraged that this should be a state issue. That being said, the federal wage has not been raised for over 10 years. So we recognize that this should be on the table to some degree. However, we think $15 is too high. It is a number based in politics, not economics. And we are willing to sit down with the Democrats and have a discussion about what would be a reasonable increase in the minimum wage. But again, $15 is too high. This is a wage that's going to hit particularly hard hit industries like restaurants and other low wage employers very hard. These businesses have already been hit very hard by the pandemic, and this would just be another significant hit to them that they can't afford right now. Otherwise, and I just to bring this up because there is a lot of talk of this in the media. The U.S. Chamber does have a very aggressive political program, as you know, and a lot of our corporate members are pausing their PAC donations in light of what happened on January 6th. We are having a lot of internal discussions with our members about how we are going to proceed with respect to our political program and the political support we give congressional candidates, particularly those that voted not to certify the election results. As I think I've brought up on previous calls, our political program prioritizes members of Congress who are going to go to DC to both support pro-growth, pro-business policies and govern. We think that our feeling is that members who are going to do things like not certify lawful elections, like we saw with 147 members last month, this is contrary to our belief that members need to support democracy and prioritize governing. So we are doing a lot of internal discussions, with our members on how we will proceed with our political activities in light of what happened on January 6th. So I will likely have more information on that on future calls, but I just wanted to flag that for you because there's a lot of discussion out there about how the business community is prioritizing their political activities in light of what's happened in recent weeks. And that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Chris? That was a great overview. All right. Doesn't look like any questions at this time. Joe, thank you again, Chris. I always appreciate you making time for us. Joe, I don't want to put you completely on the spot, but I am a little curious what might have happened with the liquor control bill that may have been heard on Friday. I don't know if that kind of, if you know.
I don't have the latest on that currently.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with us?
Sure.
In the restaurants, that was pretty good news to move to phase 2 for a lot of them, and obviously our county, Pierce, King, and Snohomish, and then Western region.
Absolutely. So good morning, everybody. Joe Bushnell with the Washington Hospitality Association, Local Government Affairs for Pierce County. So yes, we're very excited that the governor has decided to move us into phase 2, which includes 25% indoor capacity dining. As a whole, though, we don't think that's enough. We'd like to see those numbers, indoor capacity, to be raised to 50%. The data that we've seen from other states and jurisdictions that have either been completely open or at a 50% capacity has shown that transmission rates remain low and at a 50% capacity. So we understand as an industry that it's difficult to have people gather, and we want to have a safe outlet for people to gather, because most of the transmission is occurring in people's homes, and that's what the data shows, as you all are well aware. And so by having a safe outlet such as a restaurant, it has a controlled environment for individuals to socialize, because they're going to do so regardless, and those transmission rates remain low. We recently did a poll, and it showed that 75% of residents in Washington State are enthusiastic about opening as opposed to being closed. And those poll numbers have been published in the media and have been sent to the governor's office. I think the big outcry and big outpour from the open up bill that recently got a hearing, there was over 1,600 individuals that signed up to testify in support of that bill. And that was a record. I think that probably prompted the governor to go back and reevaluate. So you are being heard. We are being heard. We're continuing to try and open up, and we think that 50% is a good place to start until the pandemic is done and everybody can get their vaccine. We continue to push our health officials to get our employees on an earlier phase. Food workers being essential employees for everybody, and we want to make sure our employees are safe as well as everybody else. But if they're going to be serving the public, we think that they should be a little bit higher up along with grocery store workers. That's kind of the big stuff that's been going on. If there's any specific questions, I'm happy to try and answer it. I deal mainly with local government affairs. I do keep track of some of the state legislation though as well.
Again, on the spot, and you did great. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like next on our agenda, we have updates from Pierce County. Councilman Zeiger and Councilman Morrell is on the phone, and I understand you just had a retreat recently, so perhaps have some news to share on your plans.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to let you go first, Hans.
All right. Well, thanks to the chamber and to you in particular, Tara, for all the advocacy you've been doing lately. I've noticed that as I've been keeping track of what's going on in the legislature, and I've seen you testifying at transportation hearings and certainly on the reopening, which we, really impressive testimony from local folks testifying on that Senate Bill 5114. As far as the county goes, yes, we did have a retreat the other day and laid out priorities that we each have as council members, the 7 of us, and the Democrats have control of the county council now for the first time in 16 or 17 years, and but I don't think there's any reason to think that should change the expectations for bipartisanship. I have strong expectations for bipartisanship. And a good working relationship there to get things done for our county. So I think a lot of lot of areas for collaboration, from affordable housing to infrastructure to economic development here in Pierce County. So that's good news. I am serving as vice chair of the Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee. And so look forward to collaborating with the chamber and our small business community and anyone who's interested in economic development topics here locally. So feel free to send ideas as I'm working on that committee. The county set aside $4 million in a supplemental budget for vaccination sites. So that's a big deal. The state was slow on its rollout. And so we said, we're going to step up at the county and put in some money, hopefully get reimbursed as there's federal money available. But you probably knew that there was a site at the Puyallup Fair last week, and I believe about 2,000 people got vaccinated at that site. So that's all going well, and look for continued work on that front. And as Chris Eyler said, we really can't get our economy back until we have that vaccination program going strongly. So the county is stepping up and doing its part. Let me mention Canyon Road, because that is a project that we're going to rely on the state for support to get done. It is part of the county's plan to do that project, and it's an expensive one to complete Canyon Road across the Puyallup River, effectively replacing the Milroy Bridge, the outdated Milroy Bridge. That's just a valuable project for a lot of reasons. It's a freight mobility project. It'll help people living over there in Fife who struggle to get out of Radiance and other neighborhoods to get across the river and things like that. In the last 2 years, when the Senate transportation package was rolled out, it included $50 million for the Canyon Road project. That is not the case this year. That $50 million is not there. So I would argue that we need to put together a little coalition of local supporters for that Canyon Road project who can speak up, write letters to legislators, show up and testify at appropriate hearings and that kind of thing. So let's talk more, Tara, about that and others who are interested in that project. And then finally, we have one of my roles on the county council is to try to recruit some good people to serve on our boards and commissions for the county. And we have a number of openings on those boards and commissions. And so I am going to, in the chat box, put in a link to the list of openings on the boards and commissions. And any of you who are interested or know people who may be good fits for those, please look into that. So thank you.
Well said, Council Member Zeiger. This is Dave Morrell, Pierce County Council, District 1. And I think Hans summed up a lot of the positive points in Pierce County. As you know, we have 4 new members to the council. I think it's the most that we've ever had in one election cycle in decades. There were 3 of us remaining on the council, so of the 7, 4 new. But one of the good things about it is they're all experienced policymakers, and I think we're going to hit the ground running. As Hans said, the Democrats have taken over majority for the first time in, I do believe, 17 years. And Council Chair Young will take the leadership. And I've got a great working relationship with Council Member Young. I will serve as vice chair of the council. So it does show that we will be bipartisan. And I think that bodes well for Pierce County. I think Hans said it well. The council is now, supporting the health department and all of its endeavors to get the vaccinations out. As you know, we are doing the mass sites, and those have been supported by Pierce County. We did put $4 million in to get those up and running. Department of Emergency Management is running those sites. Department of Emergency Management has been running all the testing sites, and they have the expertise to mobilize, engage, organize, and get things done very quickly. And so we appreciate Jody Ferguson's work at Department of Emergency Management. And actually, in about half hour, the health department will reveal the mystery sites for the vaccinations in East Pierce County. We will do 1,000 vaccinations over the weekend, I do believe. And so they have had some challenges because of individuals wanting the vaccination, some very desperately. They crashed their site last week during the Gig Harbor vaccination site, and so they've had to retool and come up with ways to reach out to the community, especially those that are in the B1 phase, 65 and older. So that will happen this weekend somewhere in East Pierce County. And so looking forward to that. As Tara is aware, I think 2020 for a lot of us lasted longer than any year we ever had. And the county was able to move out $158 million in CARES Act funding that the federal government gave us. That over $42 million was invested in economic development. And I just want to give a shout out to the mighty Economic Development Department at the county, run by Betty Capistani and her crew. She did a Herculean job on getting innovative programs in place, and her little crew of 6 did an amazing job in getting those dollars out to our business community. So based on the federal rules that we were operating under the Treasury, we had to move all those dollars out by December 31st. So our CARES Act funding is over. Under the current CARES Act 2, it shifts to the federal and state. It doesn't look like the county will get any more dollars to spend. So we will monitor how the state Department of Commerce moves out those dollars to our business community. But other than that, we will move forward. I am chairing public safety this year, and the county is going to roll out their body-worn cameras and their dash cameras by July of this year. So that'll be a whole new program. So we're looking forward to seeing that, the rollout of that program within Pierce County Sheriff's Department, and to see how that, seamless work with our deputies, and to just make sure things are going well with that program. That will probably cost the county several $1 million a year to maintain that program now, and that will come out of general funds. So we just reprioritize our funding. And so other than that, we'll continue to engage and move forward. As Councilmember Zeiger said, economic development is at the top of the Republican list on the council. We know the reopening of Pierce County is important, and as Joe Bushnell indicated, we will be supporting the advancement of the phases, and especially moving up the capacity within restaurants to a minimum of 50%. So with that, I'll turn it back. Thank you. I appreciate what everybody does out there for Pierce County, and keep doing your best. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, both Councilmember Morell and Zeiger. I do see Councilmember Zeiger posted the Pierce County vacancies. I'm sure Lori's jumping on that right away. We will include that in our chamber chatter and likely make some personal phone calls and personal asks for folks to consider. Also, I imagine on the Canyon Road project, Paul Green may be very helpful, Councilmember Zeiger, to tap into on that project and looking at that coalition you wanted to start. So we'll circle to Paul on that ask as well. All right, let's move on to, we have next on our agenda, updates from our state representatives, which we know they are very busy. Representative Jacobson was on the first half hour and needed to leave. I don't know that we have anyone else on right now. RJ, if there's anything you want to say, I know Senator Gildon is very busy, is over serving on many committees, and is keeping me so up to date, which I so appreciate with weekly texts as things are tipping. So if you have anything to add, certainly go ahead and add anything.
I'd be happy to do my best. I'll be improving a little bit here, but we are largely in line with what the county is doing. We're doing our best to get the state back open as safely and efficiently as possible. We're trying to recoup any of the losses a lot of people experienced in 2020. Personally, our offices are doing a lot of work with ESD. People are dealing with unemployment insurance. We're trying to get all of that straightened out for them. We are fighting taxes. We're promoting Second Amendment rights. We are looking to increase affordable housing and keeping college affordable as well. All of that good stuff. So that's 10,000 foot level, as my boss would want to say. But I do know that if you have any questions for them, you're more than welcome to reach out. You can email or call our offices anytime, and we'd be more than happy to chat with you further.
Great. There's also a great letter. Representative Chambers ended up signing on kind of a bipartisan letter that really, I think, pointed out some of the failed math, if you will, behind the way the governor is looking at the phases. So I'm happy to share that letter with this group. I thought it was a very unique approach, and it was shared with him the day before he made the announcement to change some things. So again, we don't always know where our advocacy lands and what may influence decisions, but I know our Team 25 and District 31 is doing everything they can to be a great voice and support and advocate for our area. So
absolutely. And actually, you mentioned letters. So I just wanted to throw out that we've noticed a really positive trend actually towards the governor's office, OSPI, and the legislature starting to work together a little bit more than they did in the past. I don't know if anyone's seen the letter about restarting the SR 167 transportation projects recently. Within about 2 days of the Pierce County delegation signing that letter, we found out that the project was deemed ready to be unpaused and moving forward again. So we've noticed a really great trend towards more receptive relationships. So we're optimistic about that.
That's a great way to be. Thank you so much. Good job on the spot.
Thank you.
All right, so today we have from, let's see, Puyallup. Meredith, I knew you were bouncing around on my screen earlier for the introduction, but here you are. Thank you, and I see Jeff Wilson as well, so I'd love to hear from the city of Puyallup.
Great. Well, I'll kick it off just by saying, that the city of Puyallup, that we were really happy to partner with the Washington State Fair and the county last week for the COVID vaccination site. We had 26 city staff helping out there to manage the lines, to keep things moving. And that site averaged about a 45 to 60 minute wait throughout the day. That was the amount of time for people to get through it, which was fantastic. And I think that really speaks to all of our partners here in the city working together to keep those lines moving. I was on the health department's Facebook page over the weekend, and there were so many positive comments about Puyallup and how kind people were and how nice and helpful people were while people were visiting our community. So I think, anything that we can do to keep those things moving forward is fantastic. On business recruitment side, the new Comcast build out is complete. That brings about 50,000 square feet of new first generation Class A office space to the Benaroya South Hill campus. So Comcast is moving 565 jobs to Puyallup, which is huge. It's done now. They're ready to move in. Right now, they're just waiting for COVID to dictate when it makes sense for them to start moving staff in there. On the smaller side of things, we've seen a really interesting trend recently. We've seen a lot of movement in our downtown core. There are a bunch of new commercial property owners, and we have quite a few new retail stores opening soon, often on the smaller side of retail. There's a new business. Their name is Alphas. They have a very popular location in Kent, and they're moving to our downtown core. We have a new wine and cheese shop that's going to be opening up. We have a hair salon that's going to be opening in 2 days, Revival Hair Salon. So we're seeing a lot of movement in that area. And interestingly, we just took a look back at 2020, and last year we had 814 new businesses start located in the city of Puyallup, which is more than double the number of businesses that started in 2019 in Puyallup. And we also had almost triple the number of businesses get a business license to do business in Puyallup. So things like construction companies, landscapers, other businesses who are located outside the city but have to get a business license to do business here. So that's a really interesting trend. We're working and looking at those numbers right now to figure out, I think, perhaps one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that we had a lot of people who were displaced from their primary jobs and decided to become entrepreneurs. And so that's kind of a hopeful trend. And I'm interested to continue looking at that and seeing how we can support those new businesses. And I guess lastly, I would just say that right now, we're very highly focused on reopening strategies for our businesses, sort of those tactical things that we can help assist them as we move through the phases. But that our city staff, we have an economic recovery group that we're also working on formulating some longer term recovery strategies. And so this is just a welcome to all of you, that if you have any ideas, anything that you can think of that might be something that's a heavier lift, that might be something that might take more time to work through policy, we'd love to hear them. We're always open to more ideas about how, maybe there's something that you think could be fixed in our code or in our land use or some other area. Just shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm always here to talk. And if you need help on any of the tactical stuff either, talking through and figuring out any of the new things, or if you know businesses who do, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
That was a great update. I don't know, Jeff, if you have anything to add on to that. We appreciate you being here as well.
Oh, good morning. Thank you. Just to kind of echo what Meredith had talked about, we had just finished putting together our work plan for 2021 and actually kind of going in 2022. And I know it's going to be part of the discussion from the council retreat this evening, but there are many different things that are on there. A lot of our main focuses are really going to be the implementation of our city view permitting system, which will help improve our process through our online permitting portal, as well as allowing applicants to track information and hopefully result in more streamlined times. Really, the other focus is all going to be about customer service in terms of what we do, which is updating policies and procedures and information that we have for handouts to help applicants when they come in the door, to make it easier for them to work through the process and give them more information up front to help them be more successful. So that'll help cut down on time. And then the last part is just taking a look at all the internal processes that we do to look to see where we can make changes and improvements to streamline and simplify those processes. The more we're successful at that, the more it helps our applicants, but also more it helps us internally in being far more effective in what we do and definitely timely, and giving us greater capacity to work on more things. If we free up time by simplifying our processes, then we have more time to work on other things as well.
Great. Good positive changes. Meredith, a quick question came up yesterday. So the parklets and some of the temporary outdoor dining permitting that you've done, is that more or less predicated by like liquor licensing and sort of regulations, or is that a city decision, meaning a lot of these restaurants are enjoying this aspect, would like to continue this aspect, and didn't know what that window of time looks like for them to do so?
Sure, yeah. So right now the Parklet program is, our pilot program is in place through October 31st of this year. But certainly we've been talking about it because we have heard interest from restaurants in having these potentially longer term, that I would expect that this summer we'll probably bring it back to council to talk about whether we want to either A, extend that pilot program, or B, sort of build a more permanent program around parklets and what that might look like.
Good, thank you. And then Councilmember Johnson, do you have anything on the council side to add?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Tara. I'll keep it real brief. I'm pleased to report, as you've heard from some of the city staff, that the city of Puyallup is doing all we can to mitigate some of the negative impacts that many of our residents and businesses have been feeling. And I appreciated all the work that Steve is doing as our chief point leader on this. He's doing a fantastic job, a hard worker, and really has a good tandem with his staff to accomplish the vision, which was put very well earlier, is that customer service, right? So oftentimes I think there's been a culture change. I think there's been a culture change in Puyallup, and many of you know that we're not perfect. We still have a ways to go, and we still fall short, but there's an intentional effort by council and by Steve and city staff to view our residents and those who invest in our city as customers, much like the private sector. So in the private sector, you have the choice to go where you want. If you get lousy service, you can go somewhere else. But when you're working within a city, you can't go anywhere else. You have to deal with, that jurisdiction. And oftentimes there has been a reputation in the past that folks that work on the bureaucratic side of that know that, and so they don't always play reasonable. So we have to maintain certain standards and zones, certainly to maintain order in our city, but we realize that we need to have customer service as doing all we can do to find a way to say yes and still meet the codes and zoning and things that are important for our city of consistency. And then the last thing I would point that our council is varied, quite wonderfully from political persuasions. Even though we are kind of partisan board there, we recognize that individuals have certain persuasions. I'm pleased to say that with complete honesty, that it seems to be a real genuine bipartisan work there, and I don't sense any kind of animosity or hostility that's getting in the way of things that need to be done for Puyallup. So I'm really proud of that. And that bipartisan, I want to add one element that I think sometimes we forget. We have I think part of our solutions of recovery is on the natural realm of getting to work and finding policies and these things. But I think it would be ignorant for us to also recognize that there's a spiritual side, and I do believe in the power of prayer. And so those that have that faith, remember, as you're working hard to do these policies and changes, also include prayer. I do believe if we believe in our national anthem, One Nation Under God, then we can acknowledge him and realize he's part of the solution. So I would really raise that up as for those who believe in that aspect, the spiritual aspect, to utilize that in tandem with the hard work. And those that don't believe, you don't have to do it. That's the beauty about our country. You can believe or not believe, but we have choices. So anyway, that's my report for the city. And then also real quickly, if you don't mind, a little plug on the Puyallup Food Bank. As the new kind of CEO here, I witnessed something very dramatic happening, as with I'm sure other areas. We've seen the need for food over double in 1 year. So in November of 2019, we served approximately 1,900 individuals. But just 1 year later, after the negative impacts of this COVID and the economic downturn, we served over 4,300. And it's growing. December, 4,600. 330,000 pounds of food went out the door in the month of December. So the need is growing. Unfortunately, I'm not, I'm a very optimistic guy, but I realize that the need could continue to grow. This could be the tip of the iceberg, that once some of this stimulus money begins to slow or dry up, or unemployment dries up, we may see other families and businesses, in need. And so as a food bank, we're looking to look down the road, not just meeting the needs for today, but also looking what can we do to project and serve those who may have need of this very shortly. So it's a very sobering time, but I can state this, and I want to state this very crystal clear. The Puyallup region stakeholders have stepped up with donations that has superseded anything unlike in our 49-year history. So the spirit of generosity in our town, in our city, in our region is over the top. And so therefore, I'm still very comforted, even though the need is increased and could increase. The stakeholders of this town and this region have been extremely generous and have proven themselves beyond my farthest expectations. And so I want to say a great big thank you to all those who are investing and helping those in need.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Sumner. Mayor Pugh, good morning.
I'll start off, and given that we have probably less than 5 minutes, I will be quick. Number one, we have a new council member, Melanie Peterson, left to be with family in Wisconsin. And last night we swore in, his official name is Joshua Hamilton, formerly known as Josh. Anyway, he's been in our planning commission 6 years, and he's the one that survived the process where we had 11 applicants actually for the one vacant position. So good news, good person, and looking forward to working with him. And then a shout out to the county and to Puyallup in terms of the mass vaccination. It is the only way we're really going to be able to skin this cat and be able to, to get enough people vaccinated. And kudos to the executive and to the county council and to the staff and to the agencies that have been involved. Outstanding work, and continue the good work. And with that, I will shut up and I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Pugh. Just wanted to give a few updates on some things we're working on here in Sumner. Affecting our downtown, we're going to be looking at making some changes to our parking code. We've done a few surveys. We've looked around and decided one of the things we do need to change is we have some 8-hour parking lots that, as you could imagine, during high commute times, those become prime places for commuters to park, and then you don't have room for employees and customers. So we're making some changes to those parking lots. We make them 4-hour lots instead of 8-hour lots. And we're also making a few other changes that will make some more options for business owners and employees to be able to park downtown. We have also been working on updates to our permit system. We were initially going to try to roll those out first of the year, but given one hiccup or another, it didn't happen. So we are planning on still rolling that out this first quarter of this year. So that'll make it easier for applicants to track their permits online, a much more modern system than we have now, and it should make a big difference in terms of customer service. We have met with the Sumner Main Street Association a couple of times in the fall and in this early in the year here, trying to, as everybody is, anticipate what's going to happen in the year ahead and what does that mean for downtown events. Jill Starks, the executive director at Sumner Main Street, who I know you're familiar with in Puyallup, she's very creative, has a lot of great ideas, and it's going to be a balancing act of what's going to be safe, what's going to meet the guidelines, and still be a great event. But we've been working with her on that. Development in the community, I feel like a little bit like a broken record because these projects are big and exciting, but they don't necessarily move super fast. The Red Apple Market site is still, as far as we know, they are putting together permit apps for that and working on those applications. Western Peterbilt is the same thing, going through design review. Triad Industries, machinery, excavator dealership is also looking at Sumner. I do have to say, I went into the Paulsville RV the other day up here in Sumner, and it is awesome facility. Really, really love it that they are in town. And the final couple things, we do continue to keep our eye on the state legislature and what's going on down there in Olympia. We have, transportation funding needs for 166th and Stewart Road, those overpass and bridge, interchange and bridge projects, as well as our White River Restoration Project. We'd love to get $15 million towards that, of course. Those two big projects, White River continues to move forward in our discussions and planning and purchasing properties related to that. And finally, the city is planning on a new operations facility and working through the design for that and want to be under construction next year. That's all I've got.
Great. I'll say Sean Bunny definitely made sure that I had a healthy and friendly nudge that when we testified for the Gateway project to be sure to include the projects in Sumner. New Representative Eric Robertson also sent a nice email indicating the appreciation for the support too. So yes, we make sure that's on our forefront. Also, I know there's a brewery coming to town. I was happy to hear that. Top Down Brewery. We're going to be visiting with them next week in the East Main area.
Yes, thanks for mentioning that there. Yes, Top Down Brewing is going to be locating in the new development. It's a mixed-use development, the Main Street lofts and apartments. Tarragon project. So yeah, we are super excited to have, and it's set up, the way that place is designed is set up for outdoor seating as well. It's going to be super cool.
Awesome. Okay, so real quick, because I know we're here at the end of our hour, our legislative committee met, Kurt Jimistat, Sarah Joy, Sean Bunny, Lori, and myself. And obviously there's a lot of bills, like Carolyn said, there's a lot being thrown at the wall. I'm not all that sure what'll stick. I've kind of tasked Lori with something, a greater project than maybe we thought we could undertake by the time of this government affairs meeting. Bills are changing all of the time. So what we've done, this is a very rough draft, if you will, but essentially we've given some categories, as a lot of agencies do. One we've labeled kind of the business climate. So that's just looking at anything that is not supportive of business, we would obviously oppose, and just balancing the budget. We oppose any actions that place additional financial burdens on business owners. So there's the related bills would be indicated under there. So that's where the unemployment benefit changes, the unemployment insurance. So under the economic development and recovery, that has a lot to do with just sort of COVID pandemic related bills, also looking at economic strength in our manufacturing sites, moving to phase 2. So we'll kind of keep putting bills that we're addressing to. By no means is this a comprehensive list, but it's sort of what keeps rising to the surface right now as we're trying to write letters and testify in as many cases as possible. Transportation and infrastructure, we all heard about the win. That was 2 testimonies last week, multiple letters, and a lot of things that fall under that with the greenhouse, with the carbon taxes, the transportation appropriations budget, bonding on the toll revenues. And then we have our labor workforce. So just reduces any regulatory burdens and maintains the current balance of employee and management protections. So there's quite a few that have surfaced in this area that we are tracking. And then land use, housing, construction. Sean Bunny, you were mentioning some bills here. This is where I might want to turn back to, the Paul Greens of the world and Sean, just to make sure, and Kurt Jimistat, that we're, have the most comprehensive list we can in these areas. That's an important area for our growth. And then education and workforce development. So just a quick glance at it. It should be cleaned up and a little more comprehensive the next time you take a peek at it. But we did want to just share that this committee, has reviewed, we've discussed it. We're working with a lot of our partners on what their priorities are. Washington Hospitality, trying to mirror what Sumner's priorities are. Obviously there's a lot out there, and we are scrambling week to week to work on it for you. So happy to take input as we keep developing and fine tuning that priority list. Any additional comments or for closing here? Okay, well, hey, it seemed like we just met a couple of days ago and 1 month flew by. So I hope it was a great January for you, and always great to see you. We'll see you March 2nd. All the best.